Hello, my loves. I hope you're all ready to play detective, because today, I wanted to look at some unresolved mysteries in pop music. And as a disclaimer, I'm not claiming to know the answer to any of these. These are still mysteries for a reason, and I thought it would be fun to look at them and just speculate a little on what might have happened. Let's start with the story that actually inspired me to do this video, Paula Abdul's plane crash. According to Paula, in 1992, while flying from St. Louis to Denver on her Under My Spell tour, an engine on the 7-seater plane exploded, causing the right wing to set on fire and the plane to crash. Paula says she banged her head on the plane's ceiling and that her cervical spine was crushed, leaving her partially paralyzed. A traumatic event, no doubt, but the crazy thing is, there is no evidence of this crash ever happening. No news stories from the time, no pictures, nothing. Additionally, no one else on that supposed flight has come forward to say anything about it. Even stranger is that the tour seems to have gone off without a hitch. No dates were cancelled as far as I can tell. There was supposedly a 2-week gap between performances from June 10th to June 23rd, going off this list from her website, meaning the crash could have potentially been during this time frame. Paula also said the event happened on her birthday, which is June 19th, so that does check out. However, the St. Louis Post published a story on June 21st, 1992, saying she had performed at the Riverport Amphitheater the previous Friday, which would have been June 19th. And an Entertainment Weekly article states that she performed at Fiddler's Green Amphitheater in Englewood, Colorado on June 22nd. For whatever reason, these dates are left off of her website. Additionally, Paula has said the plane landed in a cornfield in Iowa, but Iowa is pretty out of the way for a flight from St. Louis to Denver. And to muddy the waters even more, Paula said after the incident, she disappeared for 7 years, though this isn't true, as she released and promoted a whole new album, Head Over Heels, in 1995. That was her final album, and while it's true she did take a step back from the music industry after this, she most certainly didn't take a break after 1992. Paula first made mention of the incident in 2003, over a decade after it happened, and since then has commented on it a few other times. While her exact details aren't always the same, the story has remained more or less consistent. The only problem is, she's the only one telling it. It's just strange that no one else has come forward to talk about what happened. And even stranger is how there's seemingly no records of the crash. I guess it's not totally impossible that they landed somewhere in the middle of nowhere where no one would have seen them, had rescue come shortly after, and then proceeded to go on with the tour without the story ever coming out. But that seems improbable at best. If Paula was admitted to a hospital, you would think the press or paparazzi would have gotten some details on why. This is a major star we're talking about here. She was a household name at this point. So the idea of her being in a plane crash that no one noticed is eyebrow-raising to say the least. Some have speculated Paula made up the story to explain why she wasn't in the public eye as much in the mid to late 90s, while others say she may have been involved in some sort of airplane accident, but either her recollection isn't totally true, or she embellished the details to make it sound more dramatic. Some have even said maybe there was a crash, but due to faulty reporting from the National Transportation Safety Board, or no reporting at all, there's no evidence of it. Though this seems very unlikely, as the NTSB is a government agency, and I can't imagine them fumbling a report like this. Again, especially because it's Paula Abdul we're talking about. She said the whole plane was in flames, so there's no way something like that would have just gone unreported. Paula has stated she doesn't care whether people believe her or not, and has maintained that she was in a plane crash, but with all the questionable details and lack of evidence, it's debatable whether it ever occurred. She said herself that she didn't want to discuss the accident after it happened, since she thought she'd be seen as damaged goods, and that she didn't want people to feel bad for her. I mean, I understand the music industry is cutthroat and everything, but would saying she was in a plane crash really damage her career that much if she continued touring right after? If anything, you would think that would make a gripping story for the general public, showing how she kept going despite her injuries. It is just strange to keep this a secret, even with her rationale. I personally don't know where I fall with this. I don't want to think Paula is just blatantly lying, especially about something this serious, but there's just too many questions surrounding this case. Maybe something did happen and she was traumatized to the point of making up a memory, one that was way more dramatic than what actually happened. Or maybe she's just saying this as a way to explain the lull in her career post-1995. Though even if that's true, it's a pretty elaborate and shocking story to come up with. I just can't imagine why this would be the story she'd go with. I'm gonna link a Reddit post in the description that goes even more in depth to this if you're interested. It's definitely a fascinating story when you look into it. And also, please don't take this as me trying to paint Paula in a negative light or anything. The girl's a legend, and seems like a good person. It's just that this story is a little sus. Moving on to a way less serious topic, Dua Lipa fans may remember back in January 2020, a version of her song If It Ain't Me leaked, and featured Normani. Supposedly, it was gonna be on her second album, Future Nostalgia, which was released in March 2020, but it was left off the official track list, and instead was released as a bonus track on the Moonlight edition of the album in February 2021. This version, however, didn't include Normani. Evidently, the song may have also been on the remix album Club Future Nostalgia, which was released in August 2020. Plans must have fallen through at the very last minute though, as the cover literally still features Normani cut off on the left side, which is honestly kind of hilarious. Like, they couldn't Photoshop her out or anything. Her leg is right there, clear as day. It's unknown why the Normani version of If It Ain't Me went unreleased, though some fans speculate it had something to do with Normani's label or team. Considering how wild her career's been, it wouldn't shock me if there was some foolishness going on behind the scenes. But ultimately, we'll probably never know the true reason why her version of the song was scrapped. Alright, back to a more serious mystery. The disappearance of Lady Gaga's close collaborator Space Cowboy has been the stuff of legend for pop nerds. For those who don't know, Space Cowboy was a DJ who helped co-write and produce several tracks from Lady Gaga's first album, The Fame, in 2008, and its following EP, The Fame Monster, in 2009. He even appeared in her videos for Just Dance, Beautiful Dirty Rich, and Poker Face. On top of this, he released 4 albums on his own from 2003 to 2009, and collaborated with another artist called Nadia O to produce 2 albums for her in 2008 and 2011. He was highly prolific in the late 2000s, thanks to his collabs with Gaga, but all of a sudden, in the early 2010s, he vanished from the limelight completely. He stopped making music until 2021, when his Spotify quietly posted a new album, though it's just background music with no vocals unlike his earlier works. Nadia O similarly stopped making music in the early 2010s, and went on to live a normal, more low-key life. I actually made a video about her last year, and I want to correct what I said in that one. I stated her last social media post was in 2012, and that she dropped off the grid entirely, but that is not true. She still posts to Twitter and Instagram occasionally, so there's no huge mystery as to whether or not she's even alive. Space Cowboy, though, hasn't posted anything to social media or made any public appearances since the early 2010s. His record label, Tiger Tracks, is still active, and its tax filings still show his name on them, so clearly he's still alive as well. But what caused him to completely stop his career like this? Was he burnt out? Did he not want the attention? My personal guess, and again, this is just speculation and could be totally 100% off, but I think he got tired of the music industry, or figured he made his mark, and frankly enough money, to back out of the spotlight, and not have to live such a frantic life anymore. And with him deciding to bow out, Nadia couldn't release any more music either, since he was her primary producer. Though I wonder why she didn't just work with another producer. Maybe she only wanted Space Cowboy producing her music, and that's why she decided to leave the industry. Regardless, the good thing is they're both alive, and while we may never know the behind-the-scenes story as to why they dipped out of the industry, it's not like we're exactly entitled to that information. If they want to remain private and not discuss what happened that made them leave, then that's their prerogative. Still, it's an interesting story to look at, and Vitaly Space has an amazing video that I'll link in the description, going way more into detail about Space Cowboy's career, if you're curious. And speaking of disappearances, an infamous piece of lost media among Blink-182 fans is their 2009 documentary called The Blinkumentary. The doc was produced by Handsome Ransom, and chronicled the group's 2009 reunion and touring, as well as having interviews from other rock musicians like Pete Wentz and Tommy Lee. 2 trailers were released in 2009, though filming wouldn't wrap up until 2011, since they toured during that year as well. The doc was completed, and screened for the group in 2012, though by the end of the year, it still hadn't released. In 2013, Haven Lamoureux, the owner of Handsome Ransom, stated there was a band issue holding up its release, and in 2014, Tom DeLonge himself said that the documentary was a work in progress, and that it was outdated. Unfortunately, in 2016, Haven said on Twitter that the band had no intentions of releasing it. While some footage is out there, the doc hasn't leaked in full, and it seems unlikely it'll ever get an official release, at least anytime soon. It's a mystery exactly why the film wasn't released, though fans have speculated it was due to label interference or internal conflict within the group. Considering the band we're talking about here, it would not shock me if it was because of that. Despite Tom returning to the group in 2022, after leaving in 2015, there still hasn't been any official word on the Blinkumentary, meaning we'll probably never know the exact reason why it was shelved. I hope to God this gets released one day. Blink's documentaries are always really fun, and I love to see what it was like behind the scenes on the tour. Random fun fact about me, but my brother and his friends actually took me to see the reunion tour back in 2009, and that was way before I was into Blink, or music in general, so I had no idea what was going on, but I had a great time regardless. That little connection alone makes me want to watch this documentary even more, so hopefully one day it'll come out. That's it for this video, but let me know some other pop music mysteries down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.